Let's jump right in, because today we're unpacking one of the most legendary conflicts in all of human history, the Trojan War. We are going to see exactly how a single, seemingly tiny incident cascaded into the complete and utter destruction of an invincible empire. It's honestly a masterclass in the butterfly effect, how our smallest choices can ripple outwards, tear down kingdoms, and create legends that last for millennia.
So let's set the scene. Long ago, on the coast of Asia Minor stood the magnificent city of Troy. And we need to understand, this wasn't just your average ancient city. It was a seemingly unbreachable fortress. We're talking massive, enormous stone walls and towering heights that literally reached toward the sky. Behind those defenses lived a powerful royal family and an entire civilization of people who genuinely, deeply believed they were completely untouchable. Their city could never, ever fall.
But here's the crazy part. That grand illusion of absolute safety, it was shattered by something impossibly small. It all started at a wedding. And, as with all great drama, it started with a snubbed guest. At a massive feast where pretty much every god was invited, Eris, the goddess of discord, was deliberately left off the guest list. Well, furious at being excluded, she crashes the celebration and throws a single golden apple into the crowd. Carved into it were just 3 exact words: "For the fairest." Talk about the ultimate trap, right? It was perfectly designed to turn the gods against each other.
And oh, it worked flawlessly. Immediately, 3 of the most powerful goddesses, Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite, each try to claim the apple, totally convinced she's the most beautiful. To settle the argument, the gods force a young, completely unaware mortal prince named Paris of Troy to act as the judge. Naturally, the bribes start rolling in. Hera offers vast political power. Athena promises unmatched wisdom and absolute victory in battle. But Aphrodite, well, she offers something that a young mortal like Paris simply could not say no to.
She promises him the most beautiful woman in the world, a woman named Helen. Paris jumps at Aphrodite's offer, travels to Sparta, falls head over heels, and sails back to Troy with her. But there was a massive, kingdom-destroying problem with this prize. Helen was already married. She was the wife of Menelaus, the incredibly powerful king of Sparta. You can only imagine the absolute fury of Menelaus when he finds out some foreign prince just strolled into his home and sailed off with his wife.
Now, Menelaus wasn't just a king. He was a king with incredibly powerful allies who had actually sworn an oath to defend his marriage. So he calls them up, and suddenly, thousands of Greek soldiers assemble. It's like an ancient all-star team. The Greeks brought a terrifying roster: the brilliant Odysseus, the mighty Ajax, and Achilles, literally one of the greatest warriors to ever live. Waiting for them in Troy was a formidable defense led by Prince Hector, Troy's greatest champion, who knew exactly what was at stake. The stage was set for an epic clash of titans.
The mission was straightforward: bring Helen back. But when this massive Greek armada arrives on the shores of Asia Minor, the Trojans just close their giant gates. And what follows is an agonizing stalemate. The Greeks had all these legendary champions and thousands of troops, yet Troy did not fall. We are talking about 10 whole years, an entire decade of brutal bloodshed, relentless grief, and countless warriors dying right beneath those enormous, impenetrable walls. Total gridlock.
So, what happens when an unstoppable force grinds against an immovable object for 10 years? Well, the cracks start forming from the inside. The conflict takes a tragic turn for the Greeks when their absolute best warrior, Achilles, gets into a furious argument with their commander, Agamemnon. In a massive fit of pride and anger, Achilles just straight up refuses to fight. He entirely withdraws from the battlefield. And without their heavy hitter, the Greeks start suffering some terrible, crushing defeats.
Capitalizing on this massive Greek vulnerability, Troy's champion Hector leads a ferocious counterattack. He pushes the Greeks all the way back to their ships, and in the chaos of this huge push, Hector strikes a fatal blow. He kills Patroclus, who was Achilles' absolute closest companion. This right here is the turning point of the entire decade-long war, because when the news reaches Achilles, that stubborn pride of his instantly morphs into a much darker, much more dangerous grief.
Consumed by that grief, Achilles returns to the battlefield with a single, violent purpose. He marches right up to the walls of Troy and calls Hector out. The 2 greatest warriors of the entire war finally face off. Hector knows full well he might not survive this, but he refuses to run. The duel is incredibly fierce, but ultimately Achilles defeats him.
Hector falls, Troy's greatest defender is dead, and in a brutal display of total, unyielding rage, Achilles actually drags the fallen prince's body behind his chariot for all of Troy to witness. Yet even in the middle of 10 years of relentless war and bitter hatred, we get these breathtaking, raw moments of shared humanity. In a heartbreaking pause to all the violence, Hector's father, King Priam of Troy, sneaks into the enemy Greek camp in the dead of night. He comes not as a powerful king, but simply as a grieving father. He literally begs Achilles to return his son's body, and Achilles, thinking of his own father, finally agrees. For one brief, incredible moment, the war stops, and sworn enemies just mourn together.
But of course, that peace was fleeting. The morning ends, and the war rages right back on. The Greeks are back to staring down those massive, unbroken defenses. Hector might be dead, but Troy still stands strong. And this forces the Greeks to step back and ask a pivotal, history-changing question. How do you break an unbreakable city? If a decade of brute force and legendary champions couldn't smash through those walls, what on earth could?
The answer? You completely shift tactics. You swap brute force for cunning deception. The incredibly clever Greek king Odysseus devises a brilliant, literally unprecedented plan relying on 4 deadly steps. Step 1. Build an enormous, hollow wooden horse. Step 2. Leave it outside the gates, pack up the entire camp, and pretend to completely abandon the war and sail away. Step 3. Hide a select group of elite soldiers deep inside the belly of that horse. And finally, Step 4. Wait for nightfall.
The sun comes up and the Trojans look out from their city. They see empty beaches and this massive wooden horse. Despite a few people shouting warnings, the Trojans genuinely believe the Greeks have finally given up. They think they've won, so they drag this enormous horse right through their unbreachable gates, right into the heart of the city. As night falls, Troy throws a massive victory party. Wine is flowing, music fills the streets, and eventually, the exhausted, triumphant city goes to sleep.
But as the city sleeps, the trap is sprung. Those elite soldiers hidden inside the belly of the horse quietly slip out into the dark streets. They creep over to the massive gates, the exact same gates that had kept the entire Greek army out for a decade, and they just open them from the inside. The Greek army, which had only pretended to sail away, floods back in under the cover of darkness. Troy is brutally and totally attacked from within.
The outcome is absolute devastation. Fire spread instantly. Those enormous walls that had protected Troy for 10 grueling years, totally useless against an enemy that's already inside. The city completely falls. The inciting figures of this 10-year tragedy all meet their final fates. King Priam is killed, Paris, the young prince who made that fateful choice, meets his end, and Helen, the prize promised by Aphrodite, is taken right back to Sparta.
The war was officially over. The mighty city of Troy was reduced to ash. But what's absolutely wild is that for the Greeks, the consequences of this war were far from finished. Take the cunning Odysseus, the mastermind behind the wooden horse. A punishing, legendary 10-year journey home was literally just beginning for him. He'd go on to face violent storms, terrifying monsters, witches, and the intense wrath of the gods for a whole other decade.
Ultimately, this legendary ancient conflict leaves us with a profound lesson. It was a war fought for love, honor, pride, and revenge. A war that forged incredible heroes and utterly destroyed an empire. It teaches us that sometimes the greatest walls in the world cannot protect us from the consequences of human ambition. It all started with a single golden apple at a wedding, proving just how devastating the butterfly effect of our smallest choices can truly be. So what golden apples might we be carelessly throwing in our own lives today? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring the history that shapes our world.